All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm hanging out with Connor Curran. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Your name is kind of a tongue twister.
Well, that's because it's tongue twister to Canadians, but not to Irish people. Because Irish people just squish everything down. So back home in Ireland, be kind of corn.
Yeah.
Kind of corn.
Well, that doesn't help me.
Corn.
But it's anyway. So it's like your names are very similar. Like, why
Yes.
not John
Curran.
Curran as
Yeah.
opposed to Connor Curran? You know,
I
like
love-
my last name is Kondrat. My
Yeah.
parents didn't name me Conrad.
Well, Mark Kondrat, that's, with the K's at the end and the beginning. It's tricky.
Okay, so you are the founder of Local Laundry.
Correct.
Now, if somebody doesn't have you fully locked into their social media algorithm like I do, and maybe they don't know what Local Laundry is,
Yes.
what is Local Laundry?
I'm glad you asked.
Thank you.
So, Local Laundry is now we're a Canadian-made clothing company. We want to be the Canadian-made clothing company. When you think of Canadian-made in Canada, we want you to think of Local Laundry. We're all about building community, investing in the community. We're on a mission to raise $1 million local charities by 2030 to showcase that just because we're a small business doesn't mean we can't have a big impact. And a big part of what we do is, the e-commerce, but is working with partners like yourself, creating custom collections, enhancing your brand, enhancing your events, your people through Canadian-made clothing.
So I'm always curious because people say, support local, and I do believe that you should support local any chance you get. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you think that should you always support local? I guess I'm always curious.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can, when
Yeah.
you can, to when you're able to, when the opportunity is there, and you're able to. Not everyone can support local in their everyday life, especially in today. We get that, right?
Yeah.
Times are tough economically speaking for a lot of people. And there's certain things that you just can't buy local. You can't go buy a Canadian-made phone, right? You can't buy.
Thanks, BlackBerry.
Yeah.
I guess they never made them here anyway, but
I think they did for a little bit.
Did they?
Maybe, but there's certain things that you can't buy. But when you can, if it makes sense, then yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I struggle with that. I don't struggle with supporting local because I do it every chance that I get. But yeah, there are situations where it's just not feasible. I always think about for example, with ABF, we go through thousands of lanyards every year.
Right.
And anytime that I tried to support, get someone locally to buy them, really all they're doing is what I would do, which is just ordering them from China and then shipping them over. Because there's really no other options, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that's got to be the big defining piece is there's local companies, but there's locally made.
yeah.
Supporting local, supporting a local company, that has its benefits too.
Yeah.
But, supporting Canadian made and locally made when possible.
Yeah.
That's the one that can really make a difference.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a very smart person the other day. I kept wondering why he wanted to continue talking to me, but
I remember that conversation. We had a good chat.
You're so foolish somehow. We were having a conversation, and part of it was about value, and so and we were thinking about consumers and customers in particular. So, what is when you talk about supporting local? I see it in two ways, which is yes, people should support local. But when I ask why should they support local, I'm not saying it to be I'm not saying it in a dismissive way. I'm saying it in that I believe that there's a responsibility then for the local companies to provide value that would encourage people to support local. So
Exactly.
For you guys, what's the value proposition? When people support you, what do they get out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that's always stuck with me was the last time I was on your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you said I thought was really interesting, and I've used often is
Just one thing?
just one thing.
Wow.
That's it.
I had a couple good nuggets in there. No.
And it's just because you're local doesn't mean you get a pass,
Right.
right? And that's always stuck with me. And that's something that I always go back to. That people should not support us just because we're local. That can't be the only thing. We have to make a better product. We have to have a better mission. We have to serve our customers better.
Yeah.
You know, we have to do all these things that make us better, that make it make sense to support local.
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, if you have the exact same price and the exact same everything, and you're just trying to push the exact same product, but just spin it that buy us because we're local, that's not enough to move the needle. Maybe for the short term, but certainly not the long term.
Yeah, it's not a good business plan per se, right?
No.
But,
so for us, it's the quality of the garment.
Yeah.
It is that customer service, that personal relationship that we want to build with our partners, with our customers. You know, it's the social impact, the community investment that we're doing, you know, and then it's all the impacts that our Canadian-made clothes have on the environment. You know, all of our manufacturers adhere to strict Canadian labor and environmental laws. You know, that's getting made the right way. You know, the money that goes to support the manufacturing of our garments is going back into the local and national economy to support a diverse Canadian economy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're supporting local, you're deciding to, you're voting what kind of community, what kind of world you want to live in. 'Cause you're voting with your wallet.
Yeah.
Right. Canada, we love our oligopolies. Like every industry has 2 or 3 major players, from airlines, groceries, telecoms, you know, and when you decide to go against that and support local, you're voting that, you know what, we want something a little bit different, you know? And so I think it's so important for consumers to go out there and support local when they can.
I agree. And I think
because
that
it shapes the community.
As a consumer, I think we should also look at what we mean when we talk about value, you know, because so many people think, you know, like, let's say I go for supper with my dad. Hope he doesn't listen to this because I'm about to make fun of him. No. You know, some people define value as, if you go for dinner, well, you got a giant plate of food, that equals value to some people, right?
Right.
The cheapest, the least expensive product. So let's say, you know, going to a place that you love, like Walmart. Well, I got it for this price. They equate that with value.
Yeah.
So I think as you know, business owners and as consumers, we have to rethink how we define the term value, right? Because I think there's value in what you're saying. You know, when I was a kid, when I played hockey, my hockey stick said "Made in Canada," you know, and shit like that. So you don't get that anymore, you know. You don't. And so one of the things that I love about the beer industry is you can go to where they're producing the beer. You can look at it, and that's a really cool thing. And in our world, we've lost that. In so many ways, right? So I think part of the value that you have is the fact that getting to see that "Made in Canada," you know, tag on a shirt is cool. And
it means something.
It means something. Yeah, totally.
Let me ask you, I mean, why do all the breweries that you work with, and like, why do you think their customers decide to support, you know, local craft breweries over the big dogs?
Over the big dogs? Yeah, I think a lot of people have redefined what value is to them. You know, but again, like, that's a question that I've talked to many of the small brewers and distillers about is, you know, okay, like, why should they support you versus, you know, the big guys and stuff like that? And what is the value proposition there? Really, there's world-class beer and spirits being produced locally. So you're not you know, you're not supporting them out of like some sort of like, okay, I'll support you because you're consuming world-class product that just happens to be made locally. And I think that resonates with people, you know? And so I think that was a challenge that they saw and that they kind of met was, okay, if we're going to produce this product, we can't just use this as kind of shame marketing to say support local. We have to, our responsibility is to make kick-ass beer. You know, talking to Bryce, who's the distiller at Last Best, this was years ago when he was brewing in Edmonton. And, you know, for him, he said, wherever I go, I always support local because the best Pilsner, if it's done properly, is the one that's being produced closest to where I am. Right. You know what I mean? So really, as a brewery, the best product, you should, if you're producing a Pilsner locally, it should be the best Pilsner that people can get. And I think what people are seeing locally is that is almost always the case. So then it becomes easy, right? Like in your case, I mean, the quality, that's where the value is, right?
Yeah. I think the relationship aspect is a big part of it
Yeah.
as well. I know, like, when I used to frequent all the breweries, I loved getting to know the owners, and I
Yeah,
loved getting to know the
totally,
team that worked there.
totally.
And, you know, you'd bring the beer to a backyard barbecue and be like, oh, man,
Yes.
like, you got to try some of this. It's delicious. Oh, and the guy who runs
Yeah.
this brewery, he's crazy, or he's the nicest guy. And, you know, and it's that
100%.
feeling of connection. I think
There's that
that's-
emotional connection
Yeah.
between you and the. It's the same as if you go to a restaurant. If someone suggests, "Oh, let's go to this restaurant," oftentimes they'll know the chef or they'll have a connection and they want to introduce you to why they know that restaurant, why they think that's special. And I think, yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's that relationship part that that people feel like an insider to some degree.
Well,
right?
it goes back to my favorite word, and I always sound like a broken record, but it's community. I think one of the things we've lost in today's modern day and age is that sense of community.
Yeah.
You know, no one's religious anymore for right or wrong reasons, and you know, no one has, like, we've lost that sense of. No one knows their neighbors anymore.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday was Halloween, and that was the first time I met or seen any of my neighbors.
Well, that just makes you a bad neighbor.
But we're all it, you know. And I think, like, when you support local, you build this connection, you build this relationship, you feel more connected to the community, and that's something that you don't get when you walk into Walmart. It's something you don't get when, you know, you fly Air Canada. Like, all these big corporations, you don't feel that personal relationship.
Totally. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, just going back to value, is I was having this conversation actually with my dad because he was going on vacation with his wife, and you know, he was complaining that, you know, there's you just don't get anything on the airplanes anymore. Like, you got to pay extra for luggage and all that stuff. And I was trying to explain to him, I said, that's because what we value when we fly is the cheapest flight. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so they can't give you those perks because if this is $50 more than this, you're going for that one.
Yeah.
And that means that they have to cut, right? And so if you want those things, then you have to redefine your definition of value, right? And so, you know, so like, and it's kind of like, that's then what we're left with is like this, like, bottom of the barrel service and just this minimalist kind of mentality where traveling isn't even fun anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like, it used to be an experience.
That's
and
something you gotta get through.
and so
I think you're so right. I think you've hit the money. You hit the nail right on the head. Hit it right on the money, because we expect so little in all of our interactions.
Yeah.
With anything, going to the dentist, going on a plane, going to a restaurant, like, we expect so little that when someone does anything, goes above and beyond a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, when we call our customers, we make a little thank you video. They come in, we're all excited to see them. People are like, oh, this is different. This is nice. Our manufacturer, we're one of their smallest customers, but they've told us time and time and time again that we're their favorite. I said, why are we your favorite? He says, because you're the only ones that say thank you.
Yeah.
Like, we've gotten to the point where we expect so little.
So little. Yeah.
And
It's all transactional, right?
It's all transactional. And that's why I think for us, the big differentiator is relationships.
100%.
I love them.
Well, and I agree. I mean, when people say, well, business has changed, I think the mechanics of business have changed, but the fundamentals of business are the same. And it is relationships,
That's
know?
all a business is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just a series of relationships.
So local laundry, and we've had these conversations before, but I just, again, for the people not stalking you via Instagram, the name, just tell me where it comes from.
Yeah. It came from the idea that, you know, I wanted to build something that could be used as a vehicle to connect people, to build that community, to showcase one's values. I saw how everyone was supporting, you know, local craft beer, local farm table food, and I thought, why isn't it the same with clothing?
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't the one who came up with the name. My wife, who's a lot smarter than me, she came up with the name. You know, I wanted to call it Calgary Community T-shirts. And she's like, that's a horrible name.
Yeah,
like, well.
that is terrible. I'm not even going to write that down. It's not even worth remembering.
I said, well, you come up with a better name. She's like, well, you're all about local. You want to be supporting, you know, local and building that community. You know, what if all your laundry could be local? what if you called it Local Laundry? And I was like, that's a great name.
Yeah.
Because all of our laundry used to be local. You go into your grandparents' house, like you look at all their clothes, the socks, the underwear, the suits, the dresses, everything used to be made. According to Stats Canada, 70% of all clothing bought and sold in this country prior to 1989, 70% was all made in Canada.
Yeah.
That number as of 2020 is less than 5%.
Oh, for sure.
So we used to make
Yeah.
our
Well,
laundry
Sun
used
Ice,
to be local.
Sun Ice
Yeah.
was down the street.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah, like jeans, denim. It was some of the like salvage denim and stuff. All that was invented in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Like Edmonton used to produce more denim than California at one point. You know, GWC, the GWC brand was a massive jean company. Like Alberta used to be known for its denim, but if you can fathom that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think it's important, and I think that's why local breweries resonate with people, local distilleries, why chefs, people like meeting the chef and hearing about, what they're all about. So
it's a connection.
It is 100%. And it's that community. So when you started, how long has it been since you guys have been in business for?
We started April 2015. So it's been 8 years.
So what was your initial idea, vision for the company?
So I was a student. I saw what Alex McLean had done with East Coast Lifestyle. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
And I really liked how he turned regional pride into a brand. And I wanted to take that back to Calgary. It originally started, I thought I could do that on a micro level. So that's why it was called Calgary Community T-shirts. The original idea was to come up with different designs for every Calgary community and have it designed by artists from those communities and have money go back to those communities. But it was almost too micro.
But that's not, so your idea sounds better now when you explain it.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It just, I think maybe it was too tough to do. I mean, no one really, people move communities all the time.
Yeah. It was micro, but there was also a lot of moving parts for how micro it was, right?
Yeah. And then, we threw up the YYC design just for funsies.
Yeah.
And that's the one that kind of caught on, and that's the one that kind of took things to the first level, to the next level,
Okay, so when you started, who was your ideal customer when you first started? Like, who were you thinking you were going to be servicing? Calgary, basically?
Calgary, it was me,
Calgary hipsters or what?
Well, I was living abroad, and no one had ever heard of Calgary, and I wanted something that represented Calgary that I could use when I was traveling around, that could represent me. I'm not a hockey fan, so I didn't want to wear Calgary Flames.
Like, do you dislike hockey, or you just don't actively cheer for a hockey team?
I mean, if Calgary does well, I'll cheer for them. I don't dislike hockey, but I didn't grow up playing hockey, so I'm not a hockey guy. So traveling around with a Flames hat wasn't for me. And I felt there was other people that were like me that wanted to, showcase the values that Calgary had, be proud of where they come from. And I wanted something that wasn't, the only options then were the Calgary Flames hat or, an I Heart Calgary shirt with an RCMP cartoon moose.
Right.
Get at the airport.
On Stephen Avenue.
Yeah.
A few shops.
Yes, I know exactly the ones. And I'm like, that doesn't represent
You can also get I put ketchup on my ketchup t-shirt at the same place.
Yeah. I was like, that doesn't represent me. The Calgary Flames doesn't represent me. I want something that represents me.
Yeah.
That I could bring, that I can connect and use to others. And so that's when I Google searched how to make a t-shirt company. I watched a YouTube video, and $50 later, and I used a website called hipsterlogogenerator.com.
Yeah.
And we had an online t-shirt store.
Sweet.
And then I just kind of figured out. Now our demographics kind of changed because we've gone Canadian made, kind of gone a little bit more expensive. It's it's people like yourself, people who want to live that Calgary lifestyle. They're late 20s to late 30s, married, couple of kids, bit of a disposable income. They work in office downtown during the week, go out to the mountains to ski or hike on the weekends. They drink craft beer, they support local.
Yeah.
That's our community. So again, it's aged with me.
Yeah.
It's I'm making clothes for me.
Yeah.
People that share my values.
So in that, with that thought, one of the things last time we were chatting, you talk about it a lot on social media, which is the idea of buying an existing business. So it's interesting to see kind of like where you started, where you're at now, and kind of where you're evolving to.
Right.
So why is buying So what is this all about? Why would buying an existing clothing brand be something you want to do?
Yeah, well, a lot of, because it's so easy to start a clothing company, like I said, just Google search, watch YouTube video, hipsterlogogenerator.com, away you go. A lot of people did start clothing companies, and a lot of people they've done great things with those brands. And none of them, a lot of them maybe haven't grown as much as we've grown, or, been as sustainable as we have been, and they're struggling, and they're looking, maybe the owners want to move on and move out and do something else. But they're still a great community, they're still a great brand, and they're all over Canada.
Right.
So what we want to do, and it's really hard to be a Canadian-made clothing company. It's hard to be a Canadian clothing company. It's hard to be a small business, period.
Yep. Yeah.
Because of lack of resources, you name it, all the things the last couple of years. So we really envision building a portfolio of clothing companies that are like Local Laundry, but that serve different demographics, whether it's geographical or different interests, but have those same community-minded values. Bringing them into our fold and leveraging all of our communal resources to help those communities grow.
Right.
So we're at the very end stages of our very first acquisition.
Yeah.
We made great headway yesterday. We got a letter of intent out. We're hoping to close it before Black Friday. I can't say who it is yet, but hopefully by Black Friday we'll have announced it. And we want to do that over and over again and bring all these clothing companies together in order to help grow all of our communities.
I like that. I like that idea because, like you said, each one of those brands does serve a different community.
Yeah.
But there's certainly, there's a power of having it all together, right? In terms of economies of scale and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Alberta Brewers Association.
Yeah.
And there used to be, fun fact, I looked it up. There used to be a Canadian-made clothing association, but it got disbanded because of World War II.
Oh, darn it. That darn war.
It's always messing up everything.
Yeah.
But I think that's the vision, and that's the way we want to grow, because we have no investors. We have no interest in taking on investors or a ton of capital and grow at all costs. We're interested in building a 100-year company that can service and invest in the community for the long term. And we see the only way that we can do that without taking on a bunch of money and bringing other cooks in the kitchen that might muddy our vision is to band together and bring them all under one fold and leverage all of our existing resources, our existing communities to help one another grow.
So would you see, in a hypothetical situation, if you were to take over another brand, would that team stay on? Or are you just taking their brand? And
it depends. So in this case, the owner wants to go do something else, but they want a good custodian for their brand. So in this initial case, it'll just be taking over the brand, and then we'll probably put our own people in it. But if there was a team, absolutely taking them on and bringing them into our team and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, small business, obviously there's challenges there. Trademarks. Can we talk about trademarks?
Sure.
Okay. So, because I know I've had to have trademarks done as well.
Okay.
But
have you ever had any issues with them?
No, but yes, but I haven't pursued it because it was. But here's the challenge, and I'm curious because you're obviously fighting it. Getting trademarks, like you've said, is hard.
Yeah.
Right. It's a long road. It's expensive. You have to have lawyers involved. And that's just to get the trademark, and then enforcing it is another, story altogether. So talk a little bit about kind of what you've been through and maybe what you've learned through the process.
Definitely. So, we've trademarked our name in 2 designs, and trademarking is thousands of dollars, and it takes years. It took us 3 years. We began the trademarking process in 2016, and we didn't get it fully until 2019.
Yeah.
Right? And it costs us thousands of dollars. And that's because, with clothing, it's easy just to rip off a logo and just slap it on something and, away you go.
Yeah.
And so we went down that road. We made that investment, and we've had multiple, both big and small organizations, attempt to use a confusingly similar design.
Yeah.
And, in this latest instance, it was a multinational, it was a massive company, that rhymes with Schmalmer, and they, you know, they didn't take it into account. You know, we saw the what we thought was confusing similar design. We reached out. They have a portal on their website, a trademark infringement portal, because I guess it happens so often that they have to have a way for people to fill out a form. And
it's like part of their customer service.
Yeah.
Have we infringed on your copyright or trademark?
You know, so I mean, take that for what you will, and then call their legal team, and you know, their legal team told us they didn't believe they're infringing on our trademark when it seemed to us that it was pretty clear. And so what they didn't account on was the power of our community, right?
Right.
So we put it up on social, say like, here's the two designs. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
And our community went on fire.
Yeah.
And they were very vocal, and then we got in touch. They got us in touch with different media outlets. We got a media, and next thing you know, we have them on their heels, and they removed any designs with the mark that was similar to ours.
They did, eh? Wow.
They did, you know, and now we've hired a lawyer, and we're exploring all legal options, and nothing's off the table. So it just goes to show, like, I always think about, people call us, you know, a social enterprise, and sometimes we have a love-hate relationship with that word, because we're a business. We're a for-profit business.
100%. Yeah.
Don't make no mistake about it. But that doesn't mean just because we're a for-profit business that we can't invest back in the community and make it a better place.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, a lot of organizations, they want to be a social enterprise, but they put the social and in front of the business. And if you don't take care of the business can't take care of the social stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but what we see by investing in this community is that we're there to make it a better place. We do what we can when we can. But when we need help, right, because of all the investments we've made, we can rely on the community to help us. And that was the biggest thing from this whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Was that, you know, we called on our community. We said, like, we need help, you know, help us.
Yeah.
And they did. They stood up.
Yeah.
And I really believe it's because we've stood up time and time again and invested back in the community through charity work, through, you know, helping people grow. And it was a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I think one of the issues with trademarks is if you're not diligent in protecting them, it gets harder.
Yeah.
Especially if someone has been using something for a long time, and then you decide, oh, hey, I don't want them using that anymore. It's like, well, you haven't said anything for 2 years. So there's so much gray area where you think, oh, no, this is a legal matter. It's cut and dry. When it comes to trademarks and copyright, I feel like there's a lot of kind of like gray area in that world.
Well, there's a misconception. The Canadian Trademark Office was not set up to protect businesses.
Yeah.
It's not set up to protect big business, small business. The Canadian Trademark Office is set up and designed to protect consumers, right?
Okay.
That's what it's there to help consumers avoid confusion in the marketplace.
Okay.
So just because a small business goes through the trademarking process doesn't mean that the trademark office is going to do anything to help you. It is up to you. You
Right.
have to be diligent. You have to be out there looking for and actively. And we get it all the time. And our community is the one that's how we heard about this, you know, this case in particular. Someone reached out, hey, have you seen this design? You know, it looks a lot like yours. And you go, oh, thank you. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard. It's really hard. But it's part of business. It's part of clothing. It happens all the time in clothing, you know, and you have to be ready to step up and, you know, we're not perfect either. We've come out with designs that we didn't know were similar to other companies, and companies have reached out and like, hey, that design's actually like very similar to ours. I'm like, oh, shoots. Sorry, I'll take it down. You know, we won't do it again. So it's just part of the business.
Yeah. And I know that happens in the beer industry a lot. And
how does it happen in the beer industry?
With names and stuff like that, because there's so many seasonals and stuff out there, right? And so you put
so many
out,
witty pun.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's like, oh, this is a clever name, and so, you know. But I agree with you in terms of you have to fight those things, and it's one of those things where I think, to your point, you almost get, it's not that you're an unfriendly business person. It's just that there's certain things that you worked hard to create, and
Yeah.
to not stand up for those things and just let people kind of profit from, a brand and something, an identity that you've created is not smart.
No.
Yeah.
No, and so I think that's one thing that a lot of companies underestimate is the power of these companies' community, and that's why you always have to be investing in community, investing in the relationships, investing in those connections, because they will pay dividends.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a slow. They don't pay dividends immediately, right?
No.
Like it's like when people talk about being an entrepreneur or whatever. I mean, the trajectory is the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things that you might need this 5 years down the road. It shouldn't be why you're doing it, but
No.
but certainly, like, it's not, if you meet someone today, okay, well, tomorrow they better be producing for me. You know what I mean? It's a long game,
Especially in a
for
city
sure.
like Calgary. Calgary is all about community and connections in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, we all want to see each other succeed. Hard work is respected here, and everyone wants to help out. And I mean, we've been at this for 8 years.
Yeah.
So we've built that. We've invested in it, and the best thing is it's compounding.
Yeah.
Like, it only gets more exponential the longer you're at it. One of my favorite quotes is, in small business, I mean, you just got to be around long enough to get lucky.
Yeah.
You know.
100%. Yeah.
And
Well, what's that quote? Is it Seth Rogen? I don't know if Seth Rogen said. It's attributed to him in that I saw it on social media, but it's just like, if you keep going, you might make it, and if you quit, you definitely won't.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just about staying in the game.
Yeah.
And like, that's why I'm the happiest person in the world, because right now I'm doing what I love to do. We're doing exactly what we want to do. We're nowhere near where we want to be.
Yeah.
You know, we make a lot of mistakes, but we're in the game. We've been in the game for 8 years. You know,
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to build a 100-year company. You know, we want this to outlive us, but you just got to stay in the game. You got to keep fighting. You got to find ways. Our business has fundamentally changed like 20 different times since we started. We started as a print-on-demand company. Then we started carrying inventory. We were in stores. That was our primary revenue driver. We were in 25 stores across Canada. You know, then we switched to Canadian-made, and that was a big part of it. And then pandemic hits, and now the majority of our revenue comes from corporate, from custom collections for swag. Like, our e-commerce is like 20-30% of our overall revenue. It's all partnerships like we have with you guys and other companies that want to support us. And our business will probably change again. Now we're looking at buying businesses. So it's like, I love it. You just got to stay in the game.
100%. One of the things, so I think maybe it goes along with community, is networking, right? And that's something I think is your strength. Did you know that networking was going to be as important, like when you first started? Because like I see you playing basketball, you know, like, so you do a lot of, you know, networking events, you know, every week you're out doing something. What is the importance of networking to you?
I mean, not to sound like not to beat a dead horse, but I mean, it's your community, right? And it's everything, man. I mean, it's one thing that's, I just love people. It's something that I particularly love.
Yeah.
And just finding connections, helping each other grow. It's about that investment, you know. And if you're just head down and you're just focused on yourself and growing your business, like, you could probably do pretty good. But it's the great proverb, you know, like, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go with others.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what networking is one day you might help someone with something that they need. Next day you might need help.
Yeah.
And I find, like, the best thing, anytime I need help, and I need help all the time, is I don't just go ask one person, hey, can you help me with this? I ask everyone.
Yeah.
And I throw it out there, make a TikTok, post it on LinkedIn. Does anyone know how to do this? Does anyone know someone that knows how to do this? And I'm always shocked of, like, what comes back. Like, the most random person I met at a conference 3 years ago, or, you know, someone's aunt who I went to high school with, their nephew or something.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, I know someone that can do this, and I know. And you're like, oh, amazing. So networking is everything, and I think it's my, you know, innate natural ability. It's the one thing that
I was gonna say, you're naturally gifted at that. I'm not shitting you. So it's ironic because we are sitting here recording this on audio and video. But when I'm doing, like, I was trying to do a thing on social media where I was doing a video, I was recording myself, and it took me over 70 attempts. Like, I was just like, I just kept getting, whereas you are for sure natural at it.
Well, I have no shame. That's my secret. I don't care what I look like, what people think. I used to, but now it's just like I've gotten to the point where I have no shame. I'll ask for anything.
Yeah.
My whole thing when I'm recording is like 2 or 3 attempts max.
Yeah.
You know, and just get it out there, because the beauty's in the imperfections, and I think that's the best part about business, and that's what really connects with people.
Yeah.
Is there's no such thing as a perfect person.
Yeah, there's got to be authenticity. If
Yeah.
people can just smell
Right.
fake, right?
And authenticity comes from a place of vulnerability. So once you're willing to put
Right.
yourself out there, you know, scars and all,
Yeah.
you know, that's when you be your true authentic self, you know, and that's when people can really start to connect with
Yeah.
you. So the important thing though, Mark, is that you're doing it,
Yeah.
because most people wouldn't even get to the stage where you're at, and they would stop after the 69th attempt, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just putting yourself out there and getting out there and then putting the reps in.
Yeah.
You know, because I used to be really nervous. I used to be really, really nervous about going on camera or doing talks like this, you know, because I lacked the confidence. But then you get your reps in and you do it. And then you doesn't matter if you mess up. Doesn't matter if you look like a dork. Like, it's just, you start to have fun with it. And that's where confidence starts to gain. And it goes back to momentum and magic of compounding interest. You know? Momentum and all that, it builds on itself.
Totally, 100%.
And you become unstoppable.
Yeah, and you have to do it despite the fact that you feel, you know, awkward, or that you feel like, you know, because it is about momentum, and all of a sudden then you look back and you're like, oh shit, it's been, you know, that long. 100%.
And like, I'm the king of 200 views. I'm on TikTok. I post every day, and I get 200 views on most of my videos.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Is that good or bad?
It's awful.
Okay.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I don't care, because it's practice. Even if one person sees that, 2 people like it, like, it'll all add up over time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? You know, none of this is going to matter in 5 years or 10 years, or when we're all dead in 50 years.
Do you think that it is, because to answer your rhetorical question, nobody cares.
No one cares.
Right. And so that's actually, I think for some people, like, when they realize that, it's depressing. But I think for me, it's like, I think it allows me to kind of make mistakes, because I'm like, no one's actually paying attention anyway. And so, like, I can kind of play around and I can make those mistakes. And then, you know, maybe, like you said, compound it and grow it. But, you know, during the process, there's not as many eyes on you as you think, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, now I'm the guy getting depressed with that.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I love it.
So one of the things that we'll be doing together, so I reconnected with you a little while ago, because I was thinking, you know, after we as a company, like Alberta Beer Festivals, we hadn't done swag in forever. You know, with COVID, obviously, we were just like, we didn't know, we weren't even allowed to do festivals, you know? So it's kind of like, and then when we got back to it, it's kind of like, okay, we got to get back into like the rhythm of like, what do these festivals look like? You know, how can we, you know, make sure they're dialed in? And then this year, it's, you know, we get asked all the time, well, you should like do, you know, swag. And to me, my thought was, okay, but there's got to be a story behind it. There's got to be something meaningful behind it. And that's why I thought it would be cool to finally do a project with you, because I know we've talked about it in the past and stuff like that. One of the things that we're going to be doing, so we're doing some stuff for the BAM Festival, which is awesome. Yep. But then you're going to join us, because one of the things that I thought was important to kind of bring this full circle was for you to come out to Jasper with us and have that conversation with people, so that customers understand, you know, the people coming to the Jasper show, you know, what's cool about that room is there's customers, there's just beer enthusiasts, there's spirits enthusiasts, and there's so many different breweries and distilleries. And then, but to bring someone like yourself, who is a fantastic public speaker, but B, has a story similar to the beer industry and to the distilling industry, but kind of, I would say, like almost adjacent to it.
Yeah.
But just to see how we all kind of can work together.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. Because I mean, I got into clothes, you know, by happen chance. It could have been very easily got into beer or shoes or whatever. It's just the beer and the clothes, they're different, but it's just a vehicle for how we pursue our life streams and our passions and that kind of thing. So we are all the same.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to being a part of it because, you know, beer used to be a really big part of my life. And then I gave up drinking about 6 years ago. And now that there's all these great non-alcoholic beer options, I get to be involved in the beer scene, the local craft beer scene.
Totally.
And so I'm really excited.
Yeah. You know? Well, and it's what's really interesting is because I remember when I was asking you initially if you wanted to be a part of it, and you actually said that to me. You're like, well, but full disclosure, I don't actually drink. But to your point, I think it's so cool how many, you know, because for years, non-alc beer was terrible.
Yeah,
like,
it was awful.
Undrinkable. Like I was just like, why? I'll just have a Diet Pepsi. I don't need a freaking, you know. And now there are so many good options.
Yeah.
So it was interesting when you said, well, I don't know because I don't drink beer. Like, I don't know if that's, and I was just like, no, that's good because I want to put a focus on, you know, the non-alcs that are out there and stuff like that. And we're actually going to be doing a lot of seminars because I think the beer community saw that there were these people that were looking at, and not even necessarily not drinking anymore, but maybe, you know, oh, well, after hockey, I'm not allowed to drink beer in the dressing room, but I can drink a non-alc. So you can still crack a beer after the game and hang out with your buddies. Or, you know, if you're mountain biking, maybe having a 6-pack isn't the smartest thing while you're, you know, going downhill. So it's really cool to see how the industry saw this trend and said, you know what, let's address that. And and so honest to God, like I would say 5 years ago, what was out there for non-alcs was like,
it was awful.
And now it's like, it's unbelievable.
I think it highlights a really important thing because I think and I could be way off here. You would know better than I. When it comes to the local like craft brewery scene, alcohol is never like a big part of it. It's people aren't crushing, you know, like a bunch of strong IPAs to get wasted.
Right.
You know, people want to partake in the craft brewery scene because it's so much more than just alcohol. It's the taste of the beer, the craftsmanship, the connections that we talked about, and all that kind of thing. And one of the things when I started drinking the really good, you know, non-alcoholic craft beers was stuff like this. Like I used to university crush beers, and it wasn't about the alcohol. It was about that connection, the social aspect.
Totally.
And then when I stopped, I retreated from that, and I didn't have that. You know, it didn't feel the same crushing Diet Pepsis or crushing kombucha or whatever.
Yeah.
But now, like, I feel like even just sitting here with you, like, I feel like just two buddies having a beer, and there's something special about that, you know. And so for me, I think for the craft beer scene, it's never been about the alcohol.
No, I agree. There's something about people just need to get together, and this is the, you know.
It's just
drinking beer is the forum. It's the vehicle. It's just and I'm like that too. I mean, I'm like, I miss if I go, you know, a spell without drinking. I'm like, it is the hanging out and the social aspect that I'm like, man, I miss that more than anything. And my wife's like, what the fuck are you doing at home? Like, we see you a lot. You need to go now. Start drinking again, Mark. Yeah.
Please.
So with everything that you've done, have you had mentors that have helped you kind of get to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to have mentors. You have to have an innate curiosity about you, an unquenchable desire to learn, and you know, you have to be willing to go ask for help and learn from others. So I've had, you know, a flurry of mentors, people that were really gracious, that have spent time with me. One of my very first mentors was Jim Button. I had a school project, and I cold outreach to him like, hey, I need to interview small business owners. Can you help me out? And here's a guy, like, he gave me, you know, an hour of his time,
Yeah.
you know, when he had a lot of better things to do.
Yeah.
I was a nobody. And then, so
Way better things.
way better.
Yeah.
But, so you have to have mentors. But the other one that I've kind of been digging lately is find mentors throughout history, you know, learn from history. Like, you know, I've been really into biographies lately.
Yeah.
You know, so like I just finished the Steve Jobs book. You know, now I'm reading, you know, the Howard Schultz book.
Full disclosure for me, I've never read that. That there's a couple on there that I'm like, that's actually in my to read list for sure.
But I mean, there's things like Steve Jobs can be a mentor. There's things for good and bad. Like he did amazing things, but he was kind of a dickhead. You know, and at
his
certain
hygiene
times,
I heard was questionable.
it was awful, you know, and you know, he was a questionable father at times and this kind of thing. So there's all these things that you can learn from really successful people in history where you can be it's like having a one-sided conversation with them where they can be mentors and be like, I like that aspect of him and I want to aspire to be like him in this area and I want to aspire to be better than him in this area.
Right.
So, mentors are absolutely key. And then, you know, education forums, right? So we took part in the Grow by EO YYC. It was an accelerator program. We did the Growth Catalyst program, Trade Accelerator program. There's all these initiatives and programs that are either free or extremely affordable for young entrepreneurs and small business owners that that you have no excuse not to be continuous learning and not to seek out those mentors because they're there. They want to help. Yeah. You know, you just have to ask for it and you have to seek it out.
Totally. And it's funny because I've asked that. I'll ask you, have you had the opportunity to be a mentor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I go to high schools all the time, you know, junior highs to talk about design, talk about how to start a business. I show them exactly my process. This is what I did. I Google search and we create a clothing company together in less than an hour, you know. Young people who've started clothing companies that are looking to grow and scale, we've mentored them. Absolutely. It goes back to that investment, right?
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to invest and give, and one day you'll be able to receive. So absolutely.
Yeah. So a book that I just finished, speaking of a person that you kind of have to weigh. So Arnold Schwarzenegger has a new book out called Be Useful.
Okay.
So I just finished that one, but it's like kind of 7. I think this is a fairly popular theme in books these days, but it's kind of like the rules of life or the 7 rules and so on. So for him, there's 7 points. But honestly, like he's lived an amazing life. But what's funny is he addresses kind of the elephant in the room at the beginning of like, okay, like, yeah, I might have had a son with my maid. And like, so I'm not telling you that I'm perfect. He's like, and if you want to learn more about that, just Google that. I'm not here to talk about that stupid shit. Here's what I've learned through my life.
Yeah.
And when you get down to that, it's like, wow, like what an amazing human. So to your point, you don't need a mentor. Doesn't always necessarily have to be someone that you're sitting and having coffee with. These mentors can be through books and, you know, people through history. So, you know, like read the autobiography of Lincoln or whatever, you know what I mean? And pick and choose.
Absolutely. And it's a combination of both, but there are people that are willing to help.
Yeah.
You know, and it's shocking. It's shocking the amount of like extremely smart people that have just given their time to us. And I'm like, why are you wasting your time? You know, but they want to help and you know, we want to return the favor as well. So we look forward to any future mentor.
I think that's the cool thing is people. I think more people would be mentors. They just don't know how to do it in that they think, you know, they're kind of, I don't know if they're being bashful or they just lack the confidence, but they don't realize how much they have to give. So it'd be interesting, like, you know, how to kind of match people up because there's so many people that need mentors, but there's so many people in the business world in Calgary, just even specifically, that have so much, you know, knowledge. They've been through the frickin' ringer, right?
They've been in the game.
Yeah.
They've been in the game longer than you have.
Yeah.
And they've learned a thing or two. And sometimes I love talking to business owners who aren't business owners anymore.
Yeah.
People who have failed and they closed up for one reason or another because I want to learn, you know, they had some valuable lessons and I want to learn, you know, what brought them there and how to avoid them.
Totally.
You know, so
yeah. And sometimes, you know, there's certain things that people say, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And people will say, well, I'm different though. I'm gonna be the one that succeeds in that way. But it's interesting to talk to people that have done those things and failed, because there might be just really good reasons why you should avoid that. Like we were talking about it kind of earlier, which is, a thing that I've always heard is you should never go into business with family.
Yeah.
And there's success stories.
Yeah.
But I would say for every success story, there's got to be 10 disaster.
Money and family don't go well together.
So there's certain things that you should go, okay, why is this a cliche? Why do people say that? And like you said, go and talk to people who have failed in that way. And maybe it's like, oh yeah, that is something we should avoid, as opposed to be like, no, we'll be the first people to prove this wrong, And
sometimes experience is the best teacher,
100%,
and sometimes you just need to do it. And that's always my advice to people that have idea. You can sit around, talk about it, talk to mentors and everything, but you're not going to truly learn until you go out and do it.
Yeah.
So anyone who always asks, like, what's your best advice for someone who wants to start a business? I think shut up and go start it. Stop talking about it, go out and do it. Because that's the only way you're really going to be able to learn.
And I agree. Actually, it was funny. I was asked that years ago, and I used to have a little sports store, and there was like a local magazine that was asking entrepreneurs, advice. And someone said, what advice would you give someone if they wanted to start a business? And I said, don't do it. And I just thought that was funny. Like I said that because I thought it was funny, but really also, if that's going to prevent someone from doing it, they probably shouldn't have done it in the first place, right? Because for most people that start a business, it's like there is a part of them that just isn't going to listen to people. They just need to kind of scratch that itch. And so if the barrier of like me telling you not to do it is going to like be enough to like not, you know what I mean? Then
100%.
it's like, then that was good advice then,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you that. So because I'm always curious, is there really good advice that you've been given, or is there advice that you just realize after time, this is something I tell everybody?
Yeah, it's something I've always thought and always tell. And recently, I was listening to a podcast all about John D. Rockefeller, and he had a really great quote that summed it up.
I love how he needs to have the D in his name. Like I know, I'm pretty sure we know who John Rockefeller.
Yeah, not John Rockefeller from down the street.
Yeah, Oh, John D. Rockefeller.
John D. Yeah.
Or George W. Bush. Okay, yeah.
And he always says, action cures all.
Yeah.
Action cures all. Anytime you're feeling anxious, it's action always cures all. There's nothing worse than if you're having a bad day and you're just sitting around doing nothing, you're just really stressed about something, just go do something. And the beauty of it can be anything. If you're really stressed, go wash the dishes, go make your bed. That even just that little bit of action will help make you feel better.
100%.
And the second one is to cure, to soothe the mind, exhaust the body, right? And I think they go hand in hand together. And we were talking about running and that kind of thing earlier.
Yeah.
But I just think be an action-orientated person.
Yes.
100%. He also says excuses are an illness. There's two types of people who take action and people who make excuses.
Yeah.
And don't be an excuse person. It is an illness, and we've all made excuses. I've made loads of excuses. Less excuses, more action.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? And the way to know that, I think you should spend a lot of time with yourself, because it's easier to bullshit other people.
Yeah.
Once you're alone with yourself in a room, and you start telling yourself the lies that you were telling other people, it's just like the other part of your brain's going, you're so full of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's just like, okay, now I got to get up and do something. You know what I mean? So,
and so like,
which is, I think, why people don't like spending time by themselves. You know what I mean?
Or don't like spending time with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one, because I don't have time for complainers.
Yeah.
Complainers really get under my skin. I love everyone, but complaining does nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do something.
It's not venting. Venting does nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's if you're upset, if you don't like, do something.
Yeah.
Go take action.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. I like that. So outside of work, what do you do? Are you, I don't know. What do you do? Because
My-
you seem like you're very like you love what you do.
I
so
do.
it doesn't seem like work, and that you're building something. You have a vision, but are you able to set it aside and do other things?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We really separate, my business partner and I, we separate work and life. We try, we believe that the business should work for us and we don't work for the business. We rarely work more than 40, 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
We don't work on the weekends. We stopped doing markets because they were always on the weekends. We spent a lot of time with our family. I love to sauna.
I love the sauna. I love that. I didn't know that was like.
That's my pastime.
Okay.
It's
So how does one sauna as a pastime?
So it was like my birthday at the beginning of October. My wife's like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" I was like, "I want to sit in my sauna all day long." It goes back to like building community and like my favorite thing. I would love to have a sauna with you. You sit there, you're sweating, you just have these great thoughts, great chats, have a beer, a little bit of music, and it's relaxing. It relieves stress, but it allows your mind to wander. I love it. It's good for your health.
Yeah.
I sauna like 3-4 times a week.
And now I'm picturing us doing a podcast in the sauna.
Are
we wearing a robe, or are we like wearing a towel?
No,
or we're
shorts.
naked? Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have little wool hats that we wear.
Oh, okay.
I used to do a podcast and we did it in a sauna.
Really?
Yeah, the sauna wasn't on, but we would do a podcast in the sauna and invite guests, and it was interesting because like when you just have 4 walls of wood and no TVs, no phones, no nothing. There's nothing to stimulate your mind. So the only thing to stimulate is the conversation.
Yeah.
And the conversation, you can get real deep, real quick. And it can go to all these fascinating places, And it's impossible, whenever you're stressed, it's impossible to be stressed in a sauna. Because you go in the sauna thinking about all your problems, and you're sitting in the sauna, and all you can think about is how freaking hot it is.
Yeah.
And all your problems seem minuscule because you're just like, I'm about to die from all this heat.
Sure is hot in here.
Sure is hot. Like that's the only thing you can think
Yeah.
about. So that's my passion. I love saunas.
Wow, that's the first time anyone's ever answered that question with sauna. I love that. Now I need to go sauna.
If you want, I got one in my backyard. You're more than welcome. Come on by anytime.
So I'll ask you one more question, and then I'll let you get back to work. Are you a curious person? Would you describe yourself as a curious person or a passionate person? Or both?
Both.
Yeah.
I think you have to have, any entrepreneur has to be. I think any person should have should be curious about the world.
Yeah.
To go out and seek, and try new things and, have the passion to pursue those curiosities with vigor and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I'm a very emotional person. I like to wear my heart on my sleeve, and I get genuinely excited.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I get genuinely excited when someone else is excited and they're telling me about their passions, and it could be something I'm not
100%.
necessarily into, but we meet at a dinner party. You're like, oh, I'm a doctor. So I was at a Halloween party last weekend, and they're like, oh, I'm a PhD doctor. I was like, oh, cool. What do you study? She's like, oh, I study sperm. I'm like, you study sperm? And all of a sudden, I'd never thought about, sperm my entire life. And then now I'm talking, she's working on how to take sperm from cancer patients, men who had previously had cancer, and then they grow sperm on mice in order so they can have kids and all this sort of stuff. And all I'm talking, next thing I know, I'm asking 1,000 questions about sperm.
Yeah.
And so I'm so curious, but I'm so excited. And when you present a little bit of passion into something that someone else's life work, they open up and they start telling you more. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, half hour passes and you have this connection.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a powerful combination of both passion and curiosity, which sometimes can lead you astray, and sometimes I'm very much a jump leap before I look type of guy, which is why my business partner, who's a little bit more of a realist, and he's the adult in the relationship.
He's analytical. He's
You need that balance.
You do, yeah.
If the world was full of me's, we would have died as a species long ago.
Yeah.
But
ooh, piece of candy. Piece of candy.
Yeah. So I think in a personal relationship, business relationship, an organization, you need to have both. You need to have the person that's analytical, that can analyze, take a step back, bring you back down to reality.
Yeah.
Then you need a crazy dreamer. We describe ourselves, I'm the bulldozer, I'm the one that's just knocking things over left, right, and center. It's
Yeah.
not pretty, but we're constantly moving forward. And he's the the steamroller coming behind me,
Yeah.
smoothing everything out, making sure we have a nice runway to lean back on,
Yeah.
and making sure that we'll be okay.
I like that. That's a good combo.
And that's why we've lasted for 8 years.
Yeah. And that is actually, yeah, for business, that's it's kind of like a marriage in a way, right? In that, like, you have to weather the fights, and you have to kind of, like me and my one business partner, Bill, we've been together for like 20 years.
Holy.
And we hate each other, but we make it work. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, make it work.
No, but we're different. We see things differently, and we've always been okay with that. It's the argument is never you have to see it my way. It's kind of seeing it from the other person's perspective. And actually, it's funny because sometimes we'll come back the next day after an argument, and we'll have flipped our argument because I will try to see it from his perspective, and so now we're fighting, but like we were fighting the opposite from what we were the other day. It's like, son of a bitch. But no, I think that's important. I'll let you go, but it's fun getting to do a project with you. Number one, it's fun stalking you on social media. The authenticity, what you're doing, you can tell that it comes from a place of passion and curiosity, which is awesome. And what you're doing is really cool. So congrats on 8 years, and hopefully you'll make it at least another couple.
A couple of months, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Until I get my goddamn sweaters. I was kidding.
Awesome. We just shut down.
Yeah. Oh man, I need you to pay that
Thanks.
invoice. Oh
Thanks
yeah.
for the
Also,
money, though.
No. Awesome. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Appreciate it.
Okay.